Hey, what's up? This is Skeptic Alert, interviewing Mike Zalrock Chaos, and we got Tim Huggins here, the polite atheist. Let's kick this shit off.
I'll take the polite out of the name so that we can get real.
Oh, okay.
It's
The non-polite atheist.
It's not Zalrock, it's Zalrock. God damn it. But anyway.
Sorry about that.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah. Oh my god, I'm just having all these problems. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Tower Bridge incident. What do you think about that, Michael?
The bridge incident?
Yeah, the terrorist attack in London.
The people who did it are scum and deserved everything that happened. And why?
Yeah.
Why is that?
What's that?
Why is there an echo?
Oh, hold on, it might be me.
This is why.
Are we good?
No, there's still.
Henry,
Hang on.
mute yours. Is that better?
Yes.
This is
Actually no. There's still one.
Okay.
Maybe it's me.
All right. Well, let's just get into it. Even with the echo, we're gonna have to move forward, I think. So I kind of wanted to talk about some of the issues with dealing with homegrown terrorism, like it is in Great Britain, because they were, I believe, they're British citizens, right? The guy who was a British citizen, wasn't he?
I'm not all that sure.
Yeah. So he had ties with I believe his name is Anton, or we just sound like a bunch of dumbasses. Let's just say it was homegrown terrorism by a radical British mosque. And the question is, everybody's solution with illegal immigrants who cause terrorist attacks, obviously, is to deport them. What do you do when you have terrorists inside your own country, homegrown?
That's a good question.
Well, because I mean, here in the United States, we have homegrown terrorist networks, so to speak, but they haven't really done much for a long time, since I believe the Waco incident or the Oklahoma City bombing. And I mean, there used to be quite a few like really radical white right-wing activists, or militiamen, or whatever the fuck you want to call them. And they would do crazy shit. They would kill Jews. They would they bombed that hospital in Oklahoma City, and they did terrorist acts in the past, but lately they haven't really done anything. But I mean, the government had a real hard time not just finding them, but actually punishing them. It's like, how do we stop this? Like, what do you do to stop any kind of like real extremist movements? It's been hard.
Well, this
this
is
is
inspired by
Islam,
and it's Islam's fault, and the
fault,
Quran, and basically, a large majority. or at
or
least
at least
50%
50%
of Muslims,
Muslims
in
in
Britain
Britain
support
support
terrorism.
terrorism.
So
So
there's
Are you
that.
talking about
that
the poll that said 50% of Muslims would support Sharia law?
No, the
no, the
Muslims, the poll
poll
that
that
showed Muslims
Muslims
celebrate
terrorism
terrorism
Yeah,
and would
that
support
is
it.
disturbing.
support it.
That is disturbing. But I'm trying to understand a little bit from their perspective, though. Like, is it really a culture war in their minds going on between the West and Islam, or is this something that's happening on that soil? Or, you know, to me, it seems like Islam can be very abstract. It definitely has very violent rhetoric, very violent passages, but there is liberal Islamic sects too, like very liberal.
But
Yeah,
the
but
liberal
the liberal
what sects
sects
are considered
considered
heretics
heretics
and hypocrites,
and
according to the Quran itself.
itself.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if we could look at it that abstractly. Are you referring to like how they refer to the true followers of the faith versus the non-true followers of the faith?
The true followers
The
of the
true
faith
followers
are
of
the
the faith
ones
are the
who
ones
go
who
to
go
kill
to
us
kill
all,
us all,
or convert us, or make
or
us into
make us into
their
their
dimmies.
dimmies.
Yeah.
There's no
There's
such
no such
thing
thing
as
as
full Islam.
Islam.
There's only
There's only
what I've
what
already
I
said.
have already said.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, it's very decentralized. There's no real true faith, but I mean that's kind of like Christianity a little bit. I think there's a little bit more authority in Christianity though, with the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church, and there's a little bit more hierarchy. It seems like people can kind of come to consensus on some issues. With Islam, that's really fucking difficult. Because each individual like mosque can have a lot of different things to say, and so if you want to take a literal reading of the Quran, which many mosques do, there's nothing stopping that, right? And that's what breeds terrorists to me. But the other thing that I've read that has a major effect on terrorism is just the lack of education. And the other thing I've done a little bit of research on is the problem of inbreeding in the Arab world. I don't know if you guys heard anything about that.
Well,
Well,
that is a thing.
that is a thing.
Because
Because
Muhammad
said,
and it's in the
and it's in
Quran,
the Quran
too,
too,
and the Hadith,
and the Hadiths,
that where you have to marry other Muslims, even if they're related to you. It even says that cousins is okay. So that allows and causes massive breeding.
I've actually done a little research on that. I think the marrying of the first cousin predates Islam. And it actually was commonplace in a lot of Western societies too. But I think the difference is there's a really heavy emphasis on it in Islam. Like they insist you marry your first cousin rather than they, like, there's literally no other girl that will marry you, so we'll hook you up with your cousin. That's how we got Henry.
No, Henry's
No,
full.
Henry's full.
No, we're not from West Virginia. We're from Washington State, so we're good folk. I don't know. It's kind of a tough thing. I mean, you're from Canada, so you know a little bit about homegrown terrorists, don't you? With the Quebec people.
That whole thing happened way before I was born. So
The QMP and all that kind of stuff.
So the Bloc Quebec extremists weren't around when I
I've actually heard if you go to Quebec, and you're just speaking English and you're
they'll
discriminate
fuck.
Yeah,
they'll just laugh at you.
Well, what I've heard is in the school systems, Anglophone versus Francophone people, Anglophone phone people are treated a lot different, which is strange to me.
There's a huge emphasis on French culture in Quebec, the province in general.
Sure.
But if you were to go from Quebec to France, the French people would laugh at them.
Oh yeah, I've had conversations with French people about Quebec people, how they speak French. They just think it's what do they call it, Quebecois? They just think it's fucking ridiculous. They sound what do I hear? They say they sound like ducks or something. I don't know if that's a nice way of putting it, but
Tim, how the fuck do you know this?
I've been everywhere, Henry. Okay, I live in the great city of Seattle, Washington. I meet everyone, Henry. No, but the funny thing though is, here in the States, you get a little bit of that, but it's in this tiny little section in Louisiana. And ironically enough, from what I've heard, is Quebec and Louisiana are both the most corrupt and shitty places to live in both respective countries. So there must be a lot of French influence. That's all I could say.
Well, I know Louisiana has a large French population.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't think that correlation is causation.
Well, that's called me ribbing the French because fuck them. But
hey, I know a really nice French guy, and he's alternate French back on YouTube. So.
Oh yeah.
So. Yeah.
No, I'm being playful. I'm being playful. Henry knows that, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just a little. I'm just a little playful. So what do you guys think about the whole us pulling out of the Paris deal?
I don't know all that much about it. Of course, that makes me sound like an utter moron.
Hey, we got you in the middle of gaming, man. Your brain was focused on something else, and then Henry's like, "Hey, we need to fucking do it now, or we're not gonna fucking do it." I'm like, Henry, calm down.
I'm like that. Now.
Personally, I think the sound quality would be better if we were on Discord. That's just my opinion.
Well, I just recently taught Henry Hangouts, so Discord might be a pretty big leap at this point. But we'll take baby steps as we go.
Also, my opinion is if you're both on your phone, you should use it.
Fair enough. Well, let's for everybody listening, which is probably nobody at this point. Yeah, the Paris Accords, U.S. pulled out of the climate change agreement that everybody in the world kind of pinky sweared that they were gonna cut emissions, and the United States says, "Nah, we're not gonna do that." Which kind of sucks because we actually really need to take some pretty desperate steps to not only make it worse, but actually to start curbing some of the more serious things that are going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
Well, from what I know, the U.S. makes a lot more carbon emissions than every other country on the planet.
Not per capita.
Isn't that like China and India per capita wise?
No, that's I don't know who it is. But I know we're not per capita. And we've actually done a lot to decrease it, but I'm a little worried that, pulling out of a deal like this, it's like we're just gonna, that just gives us free reign to just fuck up everything that we've done. And people are kind of like getting behind it because they're just like, oh well, that will teach those fucking special snowflake liberals. And I'm like, this is not a fucking political issue. Like,
Then again, can you blame the majority population of Republicans who basically hate everything liberals do and support?
well, I mean, if as long as you latch something on like SJWs, feminists, and blah blah blah, everything sounds good. It's like all Trump has to say is, "Hey, I'm going to stop all that fucking nonsense." Under his presidency, at some point, it seems like it's getting fucking worse. Like, there's a local school where Henry and I live, Evergreen State. That campus has turned into a giant shit show. A giant shit show, and it was kind of a shit show before, and now it's a giant shit show.
Isn't it the same as Berkeley there?
It's worse. Okay, they don't have grades. Like they don't. The teachers have free reign to do whatever the hell they want. They have like homeopathic studies. They do a lot. It's like the most fucking liberal college on the goddamn planet. It's got to be.
So postmodernism, anti-science nonsense.
Exactly. So all of a sudden, the Black Lives Matter and all this other stuff starts taking root there, and so all of a sudden, these relatively peaceful hippies have turned into extremely violent, almost sociopathic, just within a few years. So everybody's hope that, oh, Trump's going to win and he's going to curb all this SJW craziness. I'm like, why would fucking anybody think that?
No,
well, if anything, it's going to make it worse.
Yeah.
I don't openly say that I like Trump or I don't like Trump, but I fucking hate him. Especially right now. It's like pulling out of that deal.
He's an hypocrite on the whole body.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, we'll probably end it there. We actually Henry needs to
Islam thing. Because
I'd like to make a point. Oh, go ahead.
On the Islam topic previously. So you say there's all these peaceful bits in Islam. Well, there's abrogation, and abrogation cancels out all the previous bits that conflict with the basically all the violent things, and all the violent things are canon. It's canon, and all the peaceful bits aren't canon. That was thrown out with the abrogation clause within the Quran.
That clause is referring to modern day, later day prophecy versus previous prophecy. So anything written by anybody considered an authority in Islam is considered more relevant than previous bits. And it's not just the Quran; it's also in the Hadiths. So I don't know. It's kind of like Mormonism. You know, they if they come up with something new or a more modern day interpretation of the Quran, that's considered more correct. And that would also assume that there's any kind of consensus on any of these verses, which there isn't. So
Yeah, a lot. There's only five hadiths
hadiths
that are like major. A lot of the others disputed. So there's not a lot of
no. What I'm referring to is the Shias almost place Ali almost as high or higher than Muhammad in some cases. So there is a lot of disagreement. There isn't consensus on this, but what you're saying on some things is absolutely true. There, even if it is a small majority of Muslims doing this, it's still a major issue, and that's a shitload of people. Well, you know, if it's 1%, that's still what 10 million people, you know, who are terrorists. That's a lot of people. But yeah, I don't want to get it too contentious. We like to keep it a little laid back, right, Henry?
That is correct.
So we actually need to get going because from what I understand, Henry is ready to enter into a sleep coma. Is that right? Yeah.
We'll see.
All right. But let's go ahead and end it. Thanks a lot, Michael, for coming on. We'll probably have you back on in a little bit later, okay?
I thought there's going to be more questions.
We're just doing about a half hour kind of thing, and then we'll probably follow it up. We have a lot of stuff going on, but we'll probably end it there.
All right. Well, this has been Michael at Zalrock Chaos on Twitter, and Michael the Hernick on.
And you've been gaming a lot, right?
Yeah, I've been doing live stream.
So we'll put your YouTube link in there, and then your Twitter, and make sure and follow and subscribe. He's been what have you been playing lately?
A lot of games.
Okay, so a lot of different games. But let's this is Skeptic Alert signing off. That's Henry, Tim, and our special guest Michael. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good day.
Yep. See you guys.